And as I analyze this, the most concerning part of that for me is not just the exponential growth in debt in the state, but also 25 to 26 billion of that 45 is just for pensions. Now, most of us think about bond debt. You think about the road program and, sewer, water, university repairs, and the like. But you take the 45, and just for easy math, 25 of that is strictly for pensions. So about 20 of it is for the other brick and mortar side of it. What has happened because of all of this debt that we've taken on is that now Illinois, in regards to the bond rating houses, as we've all heard, is now next to California as being the worst of the 50 states in the nation. But what we haven't seen is what that means truly to the taxpayers and then to the households and the taxpayers of Illinois. So, for example, Illinois borrowed $3.7 billion in April of this year as a part of the partial payment to the pension system. That $3.7 billion of borrowing was a negotiated rate. I believe it was either an 8 or 9 year, and I've got that in our chart here. And by the time we pay the interest, we will be paying $1.279 billion in interest on $3.7 billion. Now, here's the part to bring it home as to why Dan Rutherford, Treasurer, is now adamant about no more borrowing. In the fact that if we were the state of Kentucky and we were to go borrow the same amount, we've done the analysis comparison, if Illinois did the same amount, if Kentucky did the same amount as what Illinois did, about the $3.7 billion, their interest rate would be about 17% less than what Illinois was paying. If we were the state of Michigan doing the same thing, our interest would be about 34% less. And if we were the state of Washington, we'd be about 41% less in the interest we'd have to pay. And then we can go through that dollar amount. In Kentucky, that amounts to $219 million. Michigan, $438, and Washington was $530 million. The other thing that happens is now not only do the taxpayers of Illinois bear a greater burden because of the interest that has to be paid because of the risk that Illinois has become, is there's what's called the halo effect. The halo effect then reflects on other units of government within the state of Illinois. And let's just take, for example, Sangamon County, right here where we sit in the state capitol. Sangamon County did a bond issuance in March of this year for about $10 million. You do a comparable bond issuance by a local unit of government at the same time period, about the same dollar amount, Muhlenberg County in Kentucky. Their interest was 14% less than what Sangamon County had to pay. And then you take it over to Clear Lake City in the state of Texas. Their interest rate was about 17% less than what Sangamon County had to pay. So I've been in discussions with the leaders here in the state capitol with regards to what we need to do in regards to catch up on bills and so forth. And one of the proposals was an additional bonding authorization for further borrowing. I've said I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to analyze, and I'm willing to help come into it with a factual decision. Well, the state treasurer today is coming in with that factual decision. It's absolutely no. Because if we continue to add on to the spiraling debt that Illinois has, there is no way that it's going to be helpful to the taxpayers. Put this in perspective. Just on the bond debt, just the bond part of it, each household in Illinois is now liable for $10,000. If we add to that the unfunded liability in the pension program, we add to that the additional necessary funds for the health insurance side of it, all of that totals up, by the time you divide out the number of households in the state of Illinois, to be $42,000 per household. So what I'm doing today as a state treasurer is trying to bring this into some real focus on how much of a problem this is and how much this means directly to each taxpayer here in the state of Illinois. And, a fair question is, well, where do you go from here? I've been very responsive to the governor's office, and I've been responsive to our legislative leaders in regards to the idea of potentially some advancing some interfund borrowing to help capture the Medicaid. And I've agreed in theory to it. The bill that I've seen so far, I'm in support of, that if it allows us to take current cash, advance it so we get the 7%, the 57% Medicaid, as opposed to waiting until July 1 to get the 50% Medicaid, I'm willing to support and participate in that. But I am not ready to help support any further bond borrowing. I don't have a vote on that. If it is long-term, I can't stop it. But one thing that I can do is I can alert the rating companies and I can alert the bond houses that the Treasurer of Illinois is not in favor of furthering the debt, and they've already identified us as one of the most risky states in the entire United States of America.